Now, these box and whiskers plots can be interpreted because the box and whiskers plots essentially divide the data into four sections containing 25% of the data. So if we were to analyze a box and whiskers such as the one drawn below, this first section, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 sections of the data, and each of them approximately contain 25% of the data. And we can use this to analyze what is given to us in different scenarios. So if we look at this diagram, we can split this into our 4 separate sections. So we have the first section here, which is represented by the difference between Q1 and the median. Then we have from Q1 to the median, which is like Q1 to the median on the table. Then from the median to Q3, as shown here. And lastly, from Q3 to the max. And again, whether you're given this, you can take the graph and make it like a table, or take the table and make it into a graph, but it's split up either way. And each of these represent, on the graph, represent 25%, and on the table represent 25%. So if it asks, it says, which percentage of runners took more than 24 minutes to run a 5K? So if I look at this on the table, if I start at 24 and I go across, I go through 1, 2, 3 of the 25 percentiles. If I look at this on the graph, I start at 24, I go across, I go through 1, 2, 3 of the 25th percentiles. So either way, it's going to be 3 times 25%, which gives you an answer of 75%. Now, if I erase this and I look at the next example says that which percentage of the runners took less than 29 minutes. So if I start at 29 minutes and I go, so it's less than, I'm going to go through 1, 2 of the 25th percentiles. Or if I look at it on the graph, because if I label, we can start at the 29 and go to the left, so I go through 2 of the 25th percentiles. So it'd be 2 times 25, which equals 50%. Now if I erase this for the next problem, the next problem asks which percentage of the runners took more than 20 minutes. So if I start at 20 on the table and work across, so I have more than, I go through 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 25th percentiles. Or if I start at 20 on the graph, I start at 20 and I go all the way, so I keep going. I go through 1, 2, 3, 4. So either way, it'd be 4 times 25, which would give us, so it'd be 100%, or all the runners took more than 20 minutes. And for the last example, it asks which percentage of the runners took less than 24 minutes. So if we start at the 24 and I make it so it's less than, I go through 1 of the 25th percentiles. Or on the graph, I start at 24 and I make it less than, it goes to the left, which goes through 1 of the 25th percentiles. So it would just be 25 times 1, which is 25%. Now the next examples ask us to determine which values will return a specific percentile. So the first one, for example, says based on the data, about 50% of the runners took more than this time to run a 5K. So if I want to have all the values that are greater than a specific number and have it only cover 2 of the 25 percentiles since it's 50, I want to include the 2 percentiles to the right. So if I start at 29 and went 2 to the right, it would be equal to 50%. Or graphically, I could go from the right, come back over 2. So I'd start at that median value, which would be a value of 29 minutes. For the next example, it says, based on the data, about 25% of runners took more than this time to run a 5K. So I want to include only one of the 25 percentiles from the right. So if I start here, I want to include just one of these 25 percentiles, which means I'm starting at 34. But the same thing, if I start from the right, because it's more than, I'm going to include just one of these percentiles. So I'd start here. So it'll be 34 minutes. For the next example, it says, based on the data, about 75% of the runners took less than this time to run a 5K. So since it's less than, I want to come from the left, because less than everything is on the left side, and we want to cover 3 of the 25th percentile. So I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3. So if I start at 34 and went to the left, I would go through 3 of them. Same thing, starting at the left, I want to go through 1, 2, 3 of them. So I can start here and work to the left. So your time would be 34 minutes. And for our last example, it says, based on the data, about 25% of runners took less than this time to run a 5K. So we want to work from the left, since it's less than, and cover one of these percentiles. So if I start from the left, and I want to cover one of them, I want to start at 24. Same thing, starting at the left, going over one, I want to start at 24. So my time would be 24 minutes.